Good morning. My name is Kristen Mon, and I'm the Director of Housing Development and Incentives for the Tulsa Authority for Economic Opportunity, or TAEO. TAEO is the public trust authority that serves as the lead entity for the City of Tulsa in carrying out community and economic development. So thank you for joining us today for a presentation on energy efficiency programs for multifamily landlords and property managers presented by PSO, the City of Tulsa, and TAEO. Before we begin today's presentation, I want to share with you two opportunities for landlords and property managers at the City of Tulsa. First is the Abode Initiative, which provides information to landlords and property managers about resources and opportunities in the City of Tulsa, such as this webinar. You can receive regular email updates and also reach out to the City and TAEO with questions or concerns that you may have. There's no cost to participating. Just email me at kmaun@cityoftulsa.org. The second opportunity is the Gold Star Landlord Program. That is a free and voluntary program that provides rewards and incentives for landlords and property managers who engage in the best rental practices. Incentives include advertising and promotion as a Gold Star landlord and prioritized processing of applications to the City of Tulsa's Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Incentives also include programs funded by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, such as the Tulsa Day Center's new Landlord Guarantee Fund. To become a Gold Star landlord, landlords must agree to participate in free programs, including the Tulsa Health Department Safe and Healthy Homes Program and the Early Settlement Mediation Program. For more information on the Gold Star Landlord Program, please visit www.cityoftulsa.org/landlords or email goldstar@cityoftulsa.org. For our presentation today, our presenters are Carrie Rowland and Jason Fisher. Carrie is the Consumer Program Energy Efficiency Coordinator for PSO, and Jason is a technical specialist for ICF, which manages the PSO energy efficiency programs for PSO. They will be talking today about energy efficiency programs for multifamily residential rental properties. Last week, Carrie and Jason presented on energy efficiency programs for single-family homes. If you weren't able to attend that, there is a recording of the webinar available on the City of Tulsa's YouTube page. There will be an opportunity for questions afterwards. We ask that everyone keep their cameras off and microphones muted during the presentation. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We are also recording this presentation and we'll make it available to share online. Thank you, and I will turn it over to Carrie and Jason.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for giving this opportunity to make this presentation today. We're very excited to share with you some really great information on how to make multifamily properties more energy efficient. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jason Fisher. Jason is the leader of the multifamily program. He takes a great deal of pride in his work, and excited for him to share a lot of great information with us on how to make multifamily properties more energy efficient. So Jason, we're going to let you take over now. Thank you.
Thank you. So yes, my name's Jason Fisher, and we're going to do a little safety moment first. PSO really likes to do safety moments before we start off any presentation, and so this is actually a true story. This is an apartment complex that we worked on, and if you can see the little, I should have put an arrow on this, but I don't know if you guys, can you see my little arrow there, Carrie? Maybe not. This little piece right here is where the water heater and the furnace live in this apartment complex. And they had a gas leak, and it blew up. So I started looking through all of the old pieces of information that we had. And sure enough, that at the time we worked on this property, it had no gas leak. But this is what it looks like. Gas leaks smell like sulfur. Sometimes you hear kind of a high whistling sound or a high-pitched noise. And the easy way to find it is to basically put a little bit of soapy solution on all of the connections. If you see something bubbling up, that's where your leak is. What makes a something like that blow up? Well, the CAS depressurization. So the CAS stands for a combustion air zone and basically, or appliance zone. And basically that's the closet where the furnace and the water heater live. If that furnace and water heater area goes under a negative pressure, it can actually pull some of the exhaust gases and sometimes flames from the water heater out of the water heater. And that's what this little arrow is on the right side there. You can see kind of a little burn mark on the outside of that water heater. If you're seeing that in the closet where these two appliances live, you've got problems, and we need to probably check that out, look over it, and see what's going on with it. We've got scientific ways to figure out what exactly is going on, and then obviously we can fix that problem if we do find some issue. A couple of other things that could potentially make that area go under negative pressure is the flue connections and improper flue materials. So the left side, the water heater is not even connected. It should have a little draft diverter there, and that flue is basically non-existent. Flue gases are coming into the area there, and it could potentially put that area under a negative pressure, and then do a flame rollout. And if you've got a gas leak in the same spot you've got a flame rollout, you guys can do the math, there's going to be an explosion. Same kind of thing with these other two. The air inside these flues, it's hot, and so because it's hot, it's buoyant, and that's what makes it go outside. But if you've got these little roller coasters put together like that, or if the flue goes down instead of up, you're going to obviously have problems. That flue gas isn't going to come out, and it could potentially put that area under a negative pressure. If it does go under negative pressure, then you can have flame rollout and various other issues that we need to make sure that we correct. So moving on, PSO has some outstanding multifamily rebates. Here's kind of a little short list of what we could potentially rebate money on. And it is, it's a cornucopia of rebates. It's everything from windows all the way up to boilers and chillers and low flow shower heads. We've got duct replacement and duct sealing and all kinds of stuff. We're going to go through some of this. But keep in mind, if any of you have any questions on any of this stuff, we'll be taking questions at the end, and you can always email or call any of us. We can walk you through the process and walk you through these rebates. First one I wanted to talk about, though, is the exterior lighting. Golly, this is a great picture on the right side there about what it looks like before and what it looks like after a lighting upgrade. Not only are these things way more energy efficient than the old antique kind of lighting that many of the apartment complexes have out there, but the other great thing is it makes your property safer. So bad guys aren't going to be hiding out in the shadows waiting for somebody that's unexpected to come by and do stuff. It cuts down on theft. It cuts down on, as I said, the criminal element. It pushes that out. So lighting is not just a great energy saver, but it also makes your property safer and much more valuable as well. We've got great rebates for exterior lighting, whether it be for a parking lot lighting or sconces on the side of the apartments, various other lighting schemes that you want to put together. We can check those out as well. Make sure that they are LEDs, and we've got a series of specs and standards to go by whenever you're picking out those appliances. So just give us a shout. Let us know whenever you're getting ready to do an exterior lighting project, and we can help you through that. Interior lighting is really the same kind of thing. This is a project that we did in the downtown Tulsa area, Meridia Apartments. Many of you guys know where that is. And this was a large building that had offices in it. They were kind of dark. The outside of it was a black glass, a darkened glass. And they pulled that off and they did a full retrofit, but the lighting inside these is really spectacular. I don't know if you guys have ever been in them, but they did an outstanding job on this. They replaced incandescence and fluorescence with LEDs. And they're actually, most of them are actually light fixtures instead of the bulbs. So they're going to last a lot longer, and they really made this project look upscale. But we've got incentives, we've got rebates for all of that as well. Moving on to water heaters. So first of all, we have a great rebate for a 0.95 efficiency rating on any electric water heater. They have to be a 10-year warranty, and wanted to bring that to your attention. Many of the apartment complexes that we deal with have these little, I think they're called Fat Boy water heaters that are over here on the right side there. But the other thing that I wanted to call your attention to is, you know, the great thing about when we come in, we're checking all this stuff. And all three of these pictures are pictures that I took out in the field. You can see the flue is incorrect on this one water heater. We would have caught that, or we did catch that, and let the owner of the apartment complex know that so that they could get that fixed, because we just don't want to we don't want to leave that property in an unsafe manner. The other thing is that left picture, you can see the little tubes on the hot water side. Those are to relieve pressure. The picture on the right side has a bigger canister type. And basically what that happens is, as you heat water, the water expands and it creates pressure on the outside of that tank. So in order to make that tank last longer, you put these on. The problem with that is this installation is incorrect. Those tubes should be standing upright. Instead, they're down, and so water will fill those tubes, and the air pressure is not relieved at that point. So this is yet another thing that we've found out in the field, and we brought that to the homeowners or the apartment complex's attention. They had somebody come in and take care of that issue for them so they wouldn't have a problem later on. So the great thing about it is you've got an extra set of eyes on that project, being PSO, that they can help you through these problems. Pool pumps. Boy, this old antique pool pump up on the right side, that thing has definitely given up its ghost. The beauty of all this is pool pumps push a lot of water, but they use a lot of energy as well. And depending on the size of your pool pump, it could use a tremendous amount of energy. Many of the water pumps that we see on these pools are hardwired in, so they're running continuously 24/7 during the summertime, and that's difficult on the pump. It's also consuming a tremendous amount of energy. We want to get those off, and the picture on the bottom portion there, that's a Pintar unit, and these are a great solution for a pool pump. They have a programmable time on it, and it also does its variable speed. So it's kind of like a rheostat. It slowly goes up and it slowly goes down as far as the speed goes, and you can cycle the water inside that pool much better if you've got a pool pump like this. The beauty of it too is that we have a great rebate to help you out with that. So if you have pool pump questions, give us a call. We can help you out with that too. Another thing too that I don't have a slide on this, but whenever you're putting a pool together, if you have a 90-degree and you swap that out for two 45-degree angles, it still makes the 90, but it doesn't force the water around a 90-degree angle. And so your pump is going to be not working quite as hard. It's going to make the pump last longer, those sorts of things. And you're talking about really a minimal amount of expense to go from 190 to 245s. Moving on. So in the PSO program, we look at everything as a building as a full system concept. In other words, if you replace the HVAC system, we want to make sure that every other component is working correctly in that property. Whenever you're pulling air in from the outside to the inside to make sure that you've got fresh air, you could be pulling pollutants in, you could be pulling various other things from the environment, whether that be pollen, mold, mildew, various other stuff. So we want to make sure that all of this is working correctly. And that's a little bit different concept than many of the other programs that are run around the country, or even maybe that you've ever been exposed to. So the beauty of that is we can help you through that. And the great thing about it too is when we leave, your property is not only more energy efficient, but it's a healthier property as well. So let's talk about air sealing and insulation. So air comes in, cold air comes in at the bottom of the structure. Hot air is buoyant, so it goes out of the top. If we can seal the top and the bottom areas of a structure, then it's going to be much more energy efficient. And the great thing about that is as you go up in height, it really has a bigger effect on the energy efficiency. This is a good example. This is called the stack effect. Basically, the way I think about this is if you can build a great big chimney, well, as the air is heated inside that chimney, it gets faster and faster and faster, and finally it goes out the top. That's basically what you're doing when you're building a great big high rise or a large building. You basically built a big chimney. And so what we want to do is make sure that that air at the top and at the bottom is tightly controlled or stopped or slowed down at least, so you don't have that chimney or that stack effect pulling air from the bottom to the top. Because remember, we're trying to air condition this chimney. And so if you try to air condition it, then it's going to continually pull energy out or air out of the top of the structure. So we've got various ways to kind of tackle this. One more thing on this topic, if you also think about the elevator shaft, the elevator shaft goes from the bottom of that building all the way up to the top of that building. And at the top, sometimes there's not an air seal there. If there's not an air seal there, think about what that's doing. That's pulling all the air, the conditioned air from the bottom of that structure all the way through the building and expelling it through the top. So again, it gets a little bit more complicated when you get into high rises, but we've got a tremendous amount of experience, and we can look and see where those problems are and help you through that. Taller buildings need more, so they need more attention. They need more attention on air sealing, especially the really tall buildings like 4 stories and up. That's when this is really getting to be a little bit more complicated. The other thing too is it's very important to have somebody on staff, or at least working on that project, that understands the airflow, the building science, and then how to achieve success, how to achieve what you're trying to achieve on that building. So if you're going for an energy efficient building, you really need somebody that's there on staff, or at least on that project, to help you out. The beauty of the PSO programs is we've got those people, and we also give you money to help you through the process as well. So there's rebate money and there's experts there available for you. This is some of the ways that we do the testing. The one on the left side is a blower door, and basically what that does is it pulls air out of the structure. So it depressurizes the whole structure to 50 pascals. Basically what that means is it's almost the weight of a feather on your hand. So you're not going to be pulling sheetrock off. You're not going to be doing any damage to the structure, but it does simulate a 15-mile-an-hour wind on everything. And so from that, we can find where those leaks are. And then obviously, if you find them, you can address them however you need to. On the right side, this is a duct blaster. And basically what this does is exactly the same thing as the blower door, only it's connected to your ductwork. So when it fires up, it goes to 25 pascals. We pull out that air, and then from that point, we can figure out how big the leaks are, where they are, and obviously once we can identify those, we can figure out how to fix those. So air sealing makes a huge difference. And here are the few pictures that I've taken in apartment complexes across the area. The one on the left side, plumber came in, he fixed the toilet. There was a leak back in the wall there, so he got that all connected and stuff. And then he rolled on because sheetrock isn't his job. The problem is whenever you leave a big hole like that in sheetrock, it's going to pull air. When the air conditioner comes on, it's going to pull air from the attic or the interstitial spaces between floors. It could pull air from a basement crawl space or various other places that you really don't want to be pulling that air from. The other thing is, if this is an apartment complex, the other side of this may have the same issue. In other words, they fixed the toilet on the other side of that property. And so adjoining rooms there may be sharing air or critters or various other things. So we want to make sure that those areas are sealed up. The one in the middle here is an attic access. Usually they put these in the closet of a multifamily property. And instead of fixing the sheetrock, they duct taped over it. And now it's got this gigantic hole there. So all the air from the attic is coming into the closet and then obviously into the living space. Big problem there. We got that fixed with a piece of plywood and a seal and some insulation. The one on the right side, this is a leak. There's water pipes that are up inside that. Actually, it's between floors. And when the water started leaking from those pipes, it made the sheetrock a lot heavier, finally dripped, and then it broke open. So after those pipes are fixed, it's important to seal that up with sheetrock, paint over it, make sure that that air seal is all good to go again. A couple of other ones. This isn't a brand new project. We were at just a few weeks ago. And this pipe here that is taped over, that pipe actually led to the outside of the structure. The idea was to get fresh air inside this area and deploy that fresh air throughout the unit. The problem was you're bringing in fresh air that is heavily laden with moisture. And then the vent, oddly enough, was right next to the dryer vent. So if this is going to be pulling air in, it's going to be pulling air in from the dryer, which again is hot and it's moist, and you're putting that right back into the property. So we wanted to make sure that that was sealed up. This is the preliminary testing that we did. We put duct tape over it so that we could identify how many CFMs that were coming through that. Later on, what they actually did is they sprayed foam up inside that to seal it off, and then they put a cap over the top of it. Another thing too, on the right side, this is a return pass-through. So the return on the air conditioner is inside the closet, and instead of ducting the return to the return on the wall, what they actually did is just they cut a big hole there and they put a return grill on it. The problem with that is anytime you have two pieces of material coming together, like the sheetrock and the wood in this picture, then you've got an air leak. And there was a tremendous amount of air leaking all around this section when the air conditioner came on. And we had a very difficult time trying to fix this. The moral to the story is on this is if you have something like this, give us a call, we can help you fix it. The other side of it is if you're building new, like this property here, make sure you give us a call before you do this kind of stuff, because we've got great solutions that we can fix this prior to this becoming a real problem. And the moral to the story is if you're going to have a return, you need to have a duct on it, because ductwork is a whole lot easier to seal off than all these pieces that are coming together. And we actually couldn't get this one to pass, so we couldn't give a rebate on the duct sealing on this property. So like I said, make sure you call us in early so that we can talk to that HVAC guy and kind of get everything straightened out. All right, attic insulation. Again, these are all pictures that I've taken out in the field. The two left pictures are a brand new property. Let's see, I guess this thing is probably about 3 or 4 years old. And they've got their occupancy certificate from the city, and people are living in this place. The problem is nobody put insulation in it. And the owners of this property were wondering why the bills were so crazy expensive. Well, this is why. I crawled up in the attic and found that there was absolutely not a stitch of insulation. They were appalled because they had paid the insulator to put insulation up here. The other odd thing that I found up there is this middle picture has all of the baffles, and it had the air baffles there for the ventilation. And what those are basically for is it's to stop insulation from falling into the little vents that are all around the outside of that property. Funny thing is there's no insulation at all. So they went to the expense to put in the air baffles, but no insulation. On the right side, this is what the property looked like after we got done. Obviously, it looks a heck of a lot better with insulation up there, and it's working really well too. This is another way to fix this same thing. So if you didn't have any insulation in it, you could actually put an open cell foam underneath the roof deck there. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring all of the ductwork into conditioned space. This is a little bit more costly to do, but it's a much more efficient way to get it done. So, you know, these guys had a choice to make. They went with the fiberglass insulation instead of this. And we've got rebates for either one of them. All right, so knee walls. So sometimes in apartment complexes, we do find knee walls. A knee wall is a wall that shares attic space with conditioned space. And those are pretty problematic as well, because the inside of that attic reaches temperatures of 150 degrees. If you've got 70 on the inside of that property, well, now you've got a big temperature difference. We call that a delta T, a difference in temperature. And what that does is it basically pulls that heat from the attic side into the house. If you shoot the wall with an infrared camera, you actually see all the studs and the walls glowing bright red. The only way to really fix this correctly is to pull off the fiberglass insulation. This is what the outside of a knee wall looks like from the attic side. And you pull off that fiberglass insulation, and then you spray on a closed or an open cell foam. This is an example of that. And as you can see, you see no framing members on the outside of that. So this is sealed up and it's insulated really well. At the very bottom of it, we also make sure that they put a air block at the bottom and then insulate over that too, so the hot air does not go underneath the floor of that room. Crawl spaces. Crawl spaces I've found in various older apartment complexes. Crawl spaces are problematic because there are all kinds of critters that live down in there and stuff that you don't want to breathe, like mold and mildew. The other problem is whenever it rains outside, particularly if there is rain around the foundation of the apartment complex, that water goes underneath and migrates into the crawl space. And then when the air conditioner comes on, it attempts to dry that area out, and it pulls all that moisture in, so it buckles floors and does all kinds of damage. So we want to make sure that those things are fixed correctly. This is the first way to fix it. You put a zero perm vapor barrier down on the dirt, and you overlap that so you don't see any more dirt. It's nice and clean inside, and then that vapor barrier comes up on the outside of the walls. And then finally, we spray a closed cell polyurethane foam in that area along the wall there to make sure that not only is the wall insulated, but there's not any moisture that's migrating from that area up into the floor joists and into the apartment complex. This is what that looks like when it's done correctly. Closed cell foam on the outside, the polyurethane foam adheres to basically everything. And at 2.5 inches, it creates a vapor retarder. So it slows down the water vapor that's coming from the dirt in. The other great thing about it is you can see that vapor barrier, the yellow piece there with the red stripe on it, the red is a piece of tape that's specifically formulated. The adhesive is specifically formulated to adhere to this kind of material. And that stops all of the water vapor coming from the floor, the dirt floor, into this area. So you're basically bringing this space into conditioned space, and it's going to be much more efficient. This is the other way to do it. If we find water standing inside that area, what we want to do is this solution here. Basically, what we're doing is spraying the same kind of polyurethane foam underneath the floor deck and on all of the floor joists. That leaves that area in a ventilated type of space. So you've got the vents on either side, and having the air pass through or pass underneath that floor attempts to dry that out a little bit better, and you're not going to have the water problems that we would. And this is what that looks like when it's all finished up. Framing members are all, like I said, covered with the polyurethane foam. It's a minimum of 2.5 inches there to slow down that water vapor from going from one side to the other side. So let's talk about HVAC systems for a sec. This is kind of an older slide, so keep in mind that the code currently is a 14 SEER air conditioner, but what we're going to talk about in this one is a 13 SEER air conditioner. So what do you have to do to get the full 13 SEER out of a unit? Well, this is what you usually get whenever you just plop in a new air conditioner. You get about an 8.5, not even quite 9 SEER out of a 13 SEER. So if you translate that to a 14 SEER, you're probably going to get in the neighborhood of around a 10, maybe 11 SEER. And that's what you're paying for. You're paying for 14 SEER and you're getting 11. That's not a good deal. So this is what we have to do to make sure that it all happens correctly. First of all, we got to size the air conditioner correctly. In other words, if it's too large, what happens is a short cycling thing. So the air conditioner comes on and it goes off really fast. And one of the primary functions of an air conditioner is to pull moisture or humidity out of the envelope or out of the inside of the building. When the coil inside that gets cold enough, it's almost like a beer glass, and the water inside the air that's passing through that condenses on that coil, and then it goes into a drip pan and it goes out of the building. Now, in order to size this correctly, that coil has to be running for a given amount of time, and if it doesn't get cold enough to make the condensation, and thereby you're not pulling out the moisture that's inside that air. Next thing you've got to do is tight duct work. And if you kind of look at this, a lot of these things that we're doing, we give rebates for, and the duct work is a huge portion of this. If you've got leaky ducts, either on the return or the supply side, you've got serious energy efficiency issues, but you also may have a lot of allergies and other things that are going on in that property. And we want to make sure that the property is running correctly. And so this is the way we do it. We seal up the duct work, or we replace those and make sure that that replacement duct is all sealed. Correct flow. So what this is if you can picture a hose and you pinch the hose in the middle, well, what happens to the water at the end? It slows down. Same thing happens in ducts. So if you've got a long duct work and you've pinched that in the middle of that duct, or you've gone around crazy corners and stuff like that, it slows the air down that's going inside that duct. And so you're not getting the velocity of air into the room that you need it. Instead, it's slowing everything down, and it's making the HVAC system work just that much harder to get that volume of air through the ductwork. Not very efficient. The other problem is it doesn't heat or cool the building the way it should. So that's another thing that we look at. Proper charge deals with the refrigerant. So the refrigerant inside that system has to be topped off correctly. If it's not a full charge, then you could have problems like the coil could freeze and various other issues. If you really want to get into that, we can talk about it. But nevertheless, that proper charge is a big portion of getting the full SEER out of that air conditioner that you want. And so here's the thing. If you do all of those things, you get the efficiency that you're paying for. Well, if we're paying a rebate on that, we want to get the efficiency that we're paying for too, just like you guys, because you're paying for the air conditioner as well. So that's how we do that. Now let's talk about the ductwork. So what we do is we put a material on the grills for the supplies and the returns, and that's how we pressurize the inside of that ductwork. If we've got that stuff on there and we fire up the blower door, which depressurizes the building itself or the room itself, then what happens is if there are duct leaks, that material will kind of fall off or flap around a little bit, and it correlates with either the supply or the return, wherever that duct leakage is. So that's one of the ways that we can find it easy. And it's a tremendous help to figure out where those leaks are, because it narrows down. If you've got a big HVAC system, it narrows down where we need to look at. Returns are one of the biggest problems that I see in apartment complexes. You know, it's almost like the return is an afterthought for a lot of the folks that are installing these, and there is a tremendous amount of leakage that's coming from the inside of the walls or the attic or the interstitial spaces between floors, and it filters right on into that air conditioner, and it blows out all over the place. The way we seal that is pretty simple. We've got a stuff called Mastic. It's a kind of a putty-like material that we put into the seams. You could use caulk and various other things, but nevertheless, all of these pieces have to be sealed. This is what the inside of one of the returns that we worked on looks like. You can see that the wood frame and the outer frame have come apart, and that seam there needs to be sealed with something. Like I said, mastic is probably the best way to do it, but those seams always need to be sealed up. And this is a picture of a return before we dealt with it. As you can see on the left side there, there's dirt and bugs and all kinds of stuff in there. If the return is properly sealed, you shouldn't see any of this. It should be spick and span, perfectly clear. And as you can see, it's filthy. So anyway, the pieces that are inside this, each seam has to be sealed up with something. As I said, mastic is probably the easiest way to fix this one. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in Oklahoma, we have the smartest air in the world. This picture on the right side, there's a filter there, but you can see that there's space on either side. So I asked the HVAC guy, how does the air know to go through that filter and not around it? And he didn't have a good answer. So this is yet another way that we make things more energy efficient and healthier too. We make sure that that opening is able to accommodate the correct size of filter. Air is going to go where it's easy, where it goes around the easiest. If there's a pathway around a filter, guess what it takes? So we want to make sure that that is working correctly as well. This is another thing that I found in multiple complexes. These little boxes down at the bottom, that is cockroach poison. I've also found rat poison in these areas. Now, let's think about what this does. So the return pulls air in from the inside of the living space, and it conditions it, and then it blows it out all over the rest of the apartment or the house. Now, if you've got cockroach poison or rat poison in there, rat poison is made of strychnine, which is deadly to humans. So even though we're filtering that air, we're actually blowing air across strychnine and distributing that evenly throughout the house. Not really a good, very healthy way to do this. So the first thing we did, obviously, is we took out the poison there, and then we sealed everything up. The other problem with this particular picture is this sewer pipe that goes through the inside of the return. What we ended up having them do is they blocked off a corner of this and then reran that pipe, because we definitely do not want sewer gases or raw sewage going into the return and then spraying that all over the house. That would be, that's not a very good situation. But the moral to the story is, let's not poison the people that live in our apartments. This is a picture of the air handler and where all of the mastic and sealing material goes. As you can see, basically it's when two pieces of material come together, that joint has to be sealed. There's a great depiction of all of this stuff. You know, if you look at the return, there's little seams down there. The return plenum has seams in it. As I said, it's basically wherever two pieces of material come together, you need to seal it up. This is a picture of a return or a supply register as it goes through the floor of the apartment complex. And as you can see, there are little pieces around there that need to be sealed up. This same kind of thing, if you flip it upside down, happens in reverse on the sheetrock side. So the register has to be sealed to the sheetrock, and all of the boots and the connections, the seams need to be sealed with mastic. This is what a return looks like when we're finished. So as you can see, that thing is so perfectly clean, you could probably eat your lunch off of it, right? The seams, all of them have mastic on it. That's what that gray kind of material looks like right there. That putty looking stuff is mastic, and that is a great sealant. Once you put it on with either a trowel or a paintbrush, and once you put it on and it dries, it's hard as a rock and it's not going to become. All right, so after talking about all that duct work, what we really need to do is replace the air conditioner. This is another picture that I've taken out there. If your air conditioners look like this, they probably need to be replaced. These are, well, the old one there, I would gamble and say that's probably around a 5 to an 8 SEER air conditioner. The other ones are a little bit newer than that. Those are about 10 SEER air conditioners, but keep in mind that our code now is 14. So PSO's program is a better than code program. So in order to give any money on a rebate for this kind of stuff, we have to be better than 14 SEER. Right now, our air conditioners rebates start off at 16 SEER, and they go from $600 to $800 depending on what you install. I'm sure you can figure out, but obviously the higher the SEER rating goes, the seasonal energy efficiency rating goes on those, the better we can pay on it. So if you put in a 20 SEER air conditioner, then we can pay, around $800. And that's the great thing about this. There's a couple of solutions here I'm going to get to in a few minutes that kind of combine each other, and you can really almost double your money on these installations. The way we check the SEER and the efficiency rating on any of that stuff is the AHRI certificate. So the coil and the condenser have to be a match system through AHRI. And when we have a match system and it meets the energy efficiency rating that we need, then we can pay on it. So moving forward, here's a picture of the coil and the condenser. The coil is that A-looking thing that's inside there, and that's the piece that gets really cold. As you can see, if you look a little bit closer, there's a little drip pan underneath that, and that's what holds the water and then makes it go outside whenever you're dehumidifying that area. The coil is an essential piece of that, but that coil has to be perfectly matched to the condenser that's on the outside. The condenser is basically, it's the same thing. It looks like a radiator on the outside of that unit, and as air passes over that radiator, it cools it down, or it pulls the air, the hot air, out of the unit by doing that. And there's coolant lines there. That's how that refrigerant goes through there, and it pulls the air out of the heat out that way. If you really want a real scientific method or explanation on how that works, give me a call later on and we can nerd out on it. But that's the way it looks, and those two pieces have to be matched through the AHRI certificate. The other thing that I want to kind of bring your attention to on this picture is the blower down below in that air handler that's inside the apartment complex. There's a motor inside that, typically a 14 SEER air conditioner and less, like 13 SEER, whatever, that's a single speed motor. And so if you think about this, it's the equivalent of driving your car on the highway, and when you reach the speed that you want, we'll say 70 miles an hour, you turn the car off and let it coast for a little bit. And then when it gets a little slower, then you turn the car back on and floor it all the way up to whatever speed you're wanting, and then turn the car off again. Well, that's what our old HVAC systems are doing. That they've got a single speed motor on them. And so it's much better to have a variable speed motor on those. That'll get you up into the 17, 18 SEERs. And when they come on, they slowly ramp up and they slowly ramp down. And so you don't have that blast of energy that you've got to have to fire up that blower as you floor it, basically, to get the unit running. Variable speed machines are much more efficient. They give you a higher SEER, and that's why we put our money where our mouth is. The higher the SEER, the better we pay on it. So, the other thing whenever you're looking at old HVAC systems like these ones pictured here is that the maintenance on these sometimes is incredible. You would save a lot of money if you just went ahead and replaced the air conditioner and didn't have to replace the HVAC. I mean, have to pay the HVAC guy coming out every so often to fix these. The other thing is the tenants don't really like to be hot. I know that might be a newsflash for you guys, but if it's super hot outside and that air conditioner goes out, now you've got some upset people. So we want to make sure that everybody that's living in these places is nice and happy and they pay their bill and you don't have to hear from them other than that monthly bill. The wonderful thing about it is, like I said, we've got rebates to help you out with these. And we've also got the brain trust behind all of that to help you make the decisions that are really good. Now, the picture on the right side, is a 70 AFUE furnace. Basically, what that means is it's a gas furnace and it's using 70% of the gas for heating. The rest of it goes up the flue. Well, 70% is not really energy efficient. In fact, they don't even make these anymore, but I see a lot of them out in the apartment complexes. The reason I'm bringing that to your attention is if there is going to be a unit out there that has a carbon monoxide leak or a gas leak, it's probably going to be one of these. And I don't have to tell you that gas leaks are explosive. The other problem with it, carbon monoxide could actually lead to death. And you really don't want to be on the 5 o'clock news explaining to the world why one of your tenants died because you didn't replace the air conditioner and the heater. So take us up on this rebate. We've got, like I said, great rebates out there to help you get through all that. All right, window units. I'm also seeing quite a few window units out there. Window units, the best ones, the brand new ones that you can buy right off the shelf right now are in the 10 to 12 SEER range. I'm going to say that again. They're 10 to 12 SEER. Again, code is 14. So these are horribly inefficient. The other thing is they're an eyesore. They're sticking out all over the place. They don't make your property look really, really nice. And another problem is they leak air all around them. Now, this guy decided to put cardboard up there to stop that air. So, I'll let you figure out whether or not that is actually working. But nevertheless, let's pull those out. Let's get those windows shut and get a good air conditioner running in there. And that'll take care of all these problems. Window units are just not a long-term solution for anything. Yeah, okay, if your air conditioner breaks, you put one in there, that'll get you by until the air conditioner guy can come out and fix it. But let's get those out. They don't need to be there in the first place and make your property look a whole lot better, and it's much more efficient. Old boilers and chillers are another big problem that we see out there in the world. The picture on the left side is one of the pipes that they were attempting to take out and fix. The bad thing about this is these pipes go under the sidewalk, they go under the parking lot, and they're very costly to try to fix. After they got halfway through this, they decided to give us a call and said, we just can't afford to do it anymore. So what we did is we pulled all of that infrastructure out, and I'll show you what we did in a few minutes. But suffice to say, these boilers and chillers are really expensive to fix. They are expensive to replace. And the other bad part about it is if that breaks, then you don't have one tenant unhappy with you. You have the entire apartment complex unhappy with you. So like I said, if you've got this kind of situation, give us a call and we can help you with some solutions on that. Mini splits are the solution. So the picture on the right side here is a depiction of a mini split. It's got a little pod that goes on the inside of the unit, and then the condenser is on the outside. These things really are pretty small. They are non-intrusive, they are quiet, and the beauty of them is a lot of them are 20 SEER. They're very, very efficient. The other great thing is they've got both the capacity to heat and to cool the unit. So you don't have to have all of the other infrastructure there to do one or the other. You've got one piece that does all of it. And the new units are able to heat these buildings, gosh, way down, into the -20s and stuff. So make sure that we get the right kind. There are some that are typically sold in the hot weather areas and you don't need that kind of heating capacity, but many of the manufacturers are making that into these mini splits now, and they can do, it's the best of both worlds. They can do everything. The picture on the left side is a mini split installation, and this is another picture of that Meridia Apartments downtown. These guys, I gotta say, they did an excellent job on all of this stuff, but as you can see, that unit that's sitting up there at the top of that wall, you can hardly even see it. And so there, once you live there, you're not even gonna notice these pods on the wall. There are other ways to do this. There's a flush mount that goes in the ceiling. They also have ducted mini splits, and they even have one that has a little hanger on it where you can put a picture on it, and then the picture kind of comes out and conditions the space, and when the unit goes off, the picture goes back to where it normally is. So there's some innovative solutions here, but the moral to the story is these are far, far more efficient, and they can take care of an entire apartment complex. And in many cases, they could be cheaper or about the same price as that boiler chiller system that you've been dealing with and you're trying to fix all the time. They're also an outstanding solution if you've got a lot of window units. Let's yank those window units out and let's put something that's good in there. So I've come to the point in the program where questions are around. So, what kind of questions do you have?
Hello, everyone. Please feel free to put any questions that you might have in the chat.
And while we're waiting for questions, I'm going to go ahead and forward that to the next slide. If any of you have questions after we get done, here's all of the contact information for everybody that is associated with the program. I'm up in the right-hand corner there, and Carrie's in the middle. Those are the two people that you've talked to today. But any of these folks can help you out with virtually any question that you've got.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
This is Carrie. Excellent presentation. I have a question. As far as, it seems like air sealing is a really big deal, and an apartment complex versus a house. Is it more difficult to go in and do air sealing for multifamily? Is there any tips or tricks that you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. It kind of depends on how big that building is. In a duplex, it's kind of the same thing as a regular house. So we would depressurize each unit with our blower door and then figure out where the holes are and get those fixed. In a, we'll say a 2-story apartment complex where the doors either open to the outside or they open to a hallway that is continuous inside. What we would do at the end of that hallway, we would obtain fresh air from either opening a door or a window, and then run that blower door again for each unit. And that way we can seal each unit up. The beauty of doing it this way is that if you've got, we'll say there's a smoker next to a non-smoker in that same apartment complex. Well, if you seal up the entire building, they still may share air. In other words, the smoker may be smoking and the non-smoker will be smelling the smoke. If we do it the way we've been doing it, where we depressurize each individual unit, we can find the leaks in each individual unit and seal all of those up. And that way that air from the neighboring apartment doesn't share with the air that's in your apartment. So, not only does it make it more efficient, it really helps out with the smoke issue or noise, and then varmints too, like cockroaches or various other things that could potentially be in the dirty guy's apartment, and you don't want the stuff in the dirty guy's apartment coming over to yours. So, and then as we go up, like a 4-story, 5-story, 12-story, the same kind of thing happens We just need to make sure that each unit is sealed off. But then when we go up in those stories, we also want to identify these bigger leaks that are in like the elevator shaft that we were talking about earlier, or various other, air systems that could be shared. Another one that I've seen is laundry chutes. You might have a laundry chute that goes from the top 4th story all the way down to the bottom where the laundry facilities are. And again, those need to be sealed in various ways. We can seal those up. There's just kind of a different way to get that done. So did that kind of answer your question, Carrie?
Yes, thank you. And one other quick question on tune-ups for HVAC equipment. How often should that be done?
Tune-up should be done, 2 to 5 years, depending on what kind of maintenance schedule you have and how often you replace the filters and that kind of stuff. It also is dependent upon the systems themselves. So the older the system is, the more often they probably need to be tuned up. It's kind of like that aging car, right? As the car ages, it's going to need more stuff. So that's one way to kind of look at it. And if it ages too much, we just need to be replacing those instead of trying to tune them up. So that might be the better way to get it done anyway, because then you're getting to a much more efficient unit and we can address the duct work and all that stuff at the same time too. Another thing too, thinking about that question as well, Carrie, what I see a lot of times is apartment complexes will have a unit that leaks, we'll say a pound of Freon. And they have the HVAC guy go out there, they'll put a pound of Freon in there, and then in a few weeks, they've got to do the same thing over and over and over again. Well, if that system is leaking Freon in any capacity, it needs to be sealed. The Freon system or the pipes there you got to find the leak and seal it up. If that's not done, you're wasting energy, you're wasting money, and you're making the tenant unhappy. So, if it keeps leaking like that, again, the best idea is probably just to replace it and go in with brand new, and then it's not leaking and it's efficient.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Well, that wraps up our presentation. Kristen, our account number is information. We've got phone numbers, we've got email, we've got website information. So if anybody here on the call today or watching the video would like to get in touch with us to get more information or need specific questions answered or help with anything, we're here to assist you all. So we'd be happy to do so. So thank you for having us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for attending. It's always a pleasure to do these talks. I hope you guys learned some stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie and Jason. And we have been recording this presentation. It will be on the City of Tulsa's YouTube page. So if there are those who were unable to join us today, you'll be able to follow up. If you are interested in finding out more about webinars like this that are being offered by the City of Tulsa and the Tulsa Authority for Economic Opportunity, please send me an email. My email address is kmaun@cityoftulsa.org. Thank you so much and have a nice Monday, everyone.